the report.
I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And it's my great pleasure to be able to get up and talk about the wonderful world of tax and tax reform, one of my pet favourite topics because it goes to the heart of the sustainability of our country, our Commonwealth and a just society. And people forget often that liberalism at the core of it does believe in freedom, and it does, but it also believes in a sense of justice at the heart of society, that people who work and deserve and earn their keep, but also that people have a responsibility to themselves so that they can not just take care of themselves, that they're not a burden to others, but that they can help others stand on their own 2 feet as well. I'd like to congratulate the member for Mackellar and his outstanding chairmanship and leadership of this committee in looking at some of the challenges we need to address around tax reform, a preparedness to confront the complexity of the system and to break apart the problems we have around entrenched interests that distort the economy and create huge challenges for the entire of the economy. We have problems where we have complex and disproportionate taxes against different activities, where we have different and preferential arrangements for different types of legal structures which minimise the contribution of some parts of the community to the benefit of the others. And if you want a society like ours, built on the principles of equal opportunity, and for people to have a chance meritocratically and to move through different stages of life to be able to succeed, you need a just tax system, one that's open, one that's honest, one that's simple, one that enables people to be able to have a go and get the reward of their effort. And we need to focus much more on this, Deputy Speaker, because it's intrinsically tied to the sense of openness and social mobility that this country should promise and should be able to deliver for every Australian. And we know this is a great challenge, particularly for younger Australians at the moment, where we have an increasing number of people over the age of 65 who have worked hard, who have made their contribution and been part of building the legacy and the story of this nation. But we also have a challenge where we have fewer young people who carry the main burden of tax. Most of the tax is collected with this Commonwealth through income tax, in fact about 71%. And most of that hits people between the ages of 35 and 55. We cannot have a society where the few are paying the most while they're on their way up, while also recognising that most of the benefits from the tax and transfer system into the future will go to those who've had their fair go. The discussion we need to have around is what does a generationally just system of tax look like? And some of the data is now coming out through different reports. In the Productivity Commission's 2015 Tax and Transfer Incidents in Australia working paper, it concluded that, in quote, total families within the 60-plus age group account for 51% of all the transfer expenditure. They also found that families in the 60-plus group receive an average of $10,900 more in transfers than they pay in taxes. Families in the 60-plus age group also pay the least in gross taxes and receive the most in gross transfers, largely because this age group is the least likely to be working. That shouldn't really surprise. As I outlined, 71% of federal tax revenue comes from income taxes, and families over 60 are less likely to work. In fact, the tax that people over the age of 60 mostly pay is, of course, the 10% GST. Whereas, of course, those working in their prime working years are the principal contributors to the tax system, and that tops out at 47% in income tax. Though we as a government are doing something to address that and to get our tax rates down, and thank God we're doing so, because what we are doing is simplifying the tax system and creating it so that anyone who's a middle income earner will not pay more than 32 cents in the dollar. But what we know is that wealth tracks people's stages of life. And so, of course, we have a tax system where so many people who are on their way up are also contributing and carrying the cost while trying to save and support for them and their families, while also most of the benefits going to people who are not them or in like circumstances. The question we need to face as a country is that sustainable? Is that just? And are we going to be able to provide the support and assistance that future generations need? And that's why we need to have a comprehensive look at the tax system and not just assess who's paying tax today, but when people pay tax and why, and who's getting the benefits of the transfer system today and what are the key drivers into the future. If we don't, we will have a tax system completely misaligned with the practical reality of the 21st century in the economy, completely inconsistent with the lived experience of Australians, completely inconsistent with the principles of a just society that promotes social mobility and a meritocracy. Now is the time, now is the moment, and I congratulate the committee and the member for Mackellar for showing their leadership. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Well, I thank the member